Well, let's start right now. We've got a chance to get this taste out of our mouth by playing well against Buffalo. We're in a position, we lead the East. We can play better. We are prepared to address the nuances of our subtleties, or however you want to describe them. We're prepared to take advantage of the detail that it takes to win a football game.
Now, that was Jerry Jones yesterday morning on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, and he was asked whether or not he had considered making an in-season coaching change, and he really didn't answer the question with a yes or a no. And if anything, if you listen to what he said carefully, Chris Sims, first of all, good morning. Second of all, if you listen carefully to what he said, I really do believe, even more strongly than I did yesterday, that Jason Garrett could be in significant jeopardy of losing his job during the season if the Cowboys lose to the Bills tomorrow afternoon, which makes tomorrow afternoon's game between Buffalo and Dallas even more important to watch.
Well, yeah, it's important to watch regardless. I mean, it's two teams fighting for a playoff spot, so that's awesome. This Jason Garrett conversation is very interesting. It's intriguing. I mean, yes, has it been underwhelming? Is he partly to blame? Of course he is. There's no denying it.
Whoa. Challenge flag, Chris Sims. Is he partly to blame?
Well, yeah.
You've been crapping on this guy for the last 2.5 years. Don't act like it's not your fault now if Jerry Jones is finally listening to you.
That's wrong. Not for the last 2.5 years. Maybe the last 2.5 days. Maybe the last 2.5 days I've crapped on him a lot. Yes.
Well, the offense isn't imaginative. They do the same thing all the time. They don't have motion. They don't do anything to fool the defense. I like your voice
here.
And their defense, it's only two coverages.
Right.
How hard is that to attack? They don't have game plans that are specific to each opponent. Come on, man. I know the Chris Sims anti-Jason Garrett greatest hits by heart.
Well, the offense has expanded this year. That's one thing. But you're right. Everything else, yes. Okay. I'll stand corrected. It is his fault. He's the head coach. And at the end of the day, he is the one in charge. So, I get all that. To me, this is just where the conversation's really interesting, Mike. Again, they are fighting for a spot in the playoffs. They are leading the NFC East. They are a team that is extremely talented. Do you want to fire your head coach, okay, and maybe jeopardize the rest of the year, or do you hang in there with him no matter what and just hope you get, hot here at some point in December leading into January if you do get into the playoffs where you can go on a real run? They do have that type of talent. I know I've been talking about my bar fight stuff all week. Like, if the 52 teams in the NFL, 32 teams break out in a fight in the NFL, Dallas is one of those teams that certainly could be in the top 4 or top 5. They really are. I mean, we know it. We went through the position groups yesterday. It's one of the best O-lines in football. It's one of the better D-lines in football. The linebackers are phenomenal. The cornerback duo is up there in the top 5 in football. The receivers are good. The quarterback's good. The running back's good. So, do you think that's the right move? I ask you, Mike Florio, if you lose a game this weekend, do you think you're really going to get better results and make a run going December into January as to then maybe just hanging in there with him and hoping he can get on one of his hot streaks that we've seen the Cowboys do, a.k.a. last year or 2014 when they went on a run and did some of that stuff? That's, to me, the big question.
Well, I don't think Jerry Jones says the things he said this week if he isn't at least contemplating it. At a minimum, he's putting maximum pressure on Jason Garrett because in the past, when Garrett's back has been against the wall, he has delivered. This is the ultimate challenge.
Right.
The gauntlet is thrown. Can you deliver Thursday against the Bills, next Thursday against the Bears? Can you stay a game ahead of the Eagles? And maybe it ultimately comes down to whether or not they can beat the Eagles in Philadelphia Week 16. But this is applying ultimate pressure to Jason Garrett to get the most out of this season. And if he responds under pressure, and if he does get more out of the talent that Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones in the front office has compiled, that could save him. But if you lose to Buffalo, right? Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You've put this guy's back firmly against the wall, and you've put him on notice. He's now on notice. We're all on notice, and he's on notice that this is it. And if you lose Thursday when your back's against the wall yet again, then the question becomes, is there someone else on the coaching staff that could get more
Right.
out of the talent that we've compiled. And you think like a guy like Chris Richard. Because
Yeah, sure. He's the first guy you think of.
That's
Right.
the name that pops up, right?
Right.
What a great opportunity.
Yeah.
If you are going to be hiring a coach after the season anyway, if you accept the fact that it's just not going to work this year, you give Richard a chance to rally the troops, earn the job on the fly. And I always caution against the whole concept of the interim coach, because what happens is a bad team starts playing better to help the interim coach get the job so they can go back to playing poorly under the interim coach and they don't have to worry about a new guy coming in and getting rid of guys. Right. This is different. This is a team with a ton of talent and potential.
Yes.
And this isn't an artificial bump like, oh, we got to play hard to save our butts. No, this is a different guy who's getting more out of the great players that he has. So I feel less concerned about an interim coach in this situation.
Right.
And it could be that this is the right move to make if they lose to the Bills. I don't think they're going to lose to the Bills. But if they lose to the Bills, I could understand the logic, and I could see why the Joneses would be thinking, hey, you know what? We're not keeping Jason Garrett next year. Let's just see what Chris Richard can do before we go out and try to hire some guy who may have no connection whatsoever to the organization.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, tomorrow, I expect a tight, close football game. I'm not going to just, I mean, I think ultimately I'm going to end up picking the Dallas Cowboys. But the Buffalo Bills are no picnic. I mean, we know that. This is a top 5 defense in football. Josh Allen's dangerous. I mean, the way he's been playing lately, if he plays clean, his running and big throws, and then, of course, the predictability of that defense lends itself to some of those moments with a guy like Josh Allen, because they sit there all week and game plan and go, hey, Josh, it's one of these two defenses all game long. Playing hard and playing tough and hustle and all those things, that's never the Cowboys' problem. It's never is. I never watch the Cowboys and go, man, they're not putting the pedal to the metal. They do. And that's where I give, Jason Garrett a lot of respect. Yes, it goes back to what you called me out for earlier in this segment is it is the creativity, the managing of moments. That's where I wish Jason Garrett would get involved maybe a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. You talk about Chris Richard. What is going on there? Is he the one that wants to just play 2 coverages all game long? If it is, I'm not all that impressed with him either. Or is he being handcuffed by Jason Garrett? Those are questions I would like to know and have answers to, but I don't. So, as we stand right now, even if they lose, I guess I'm taking the stand of I wouldn't fire Jason Garrett yet. I wouldn't until I knew, oh, man, we're out of the playoffs and this is over, because of all the things you said. They're talented. They are capable of making a run. Would you and me, I don't expect this, but would you be shocked if we woke up NFC Championship Sunday and the Dallas Cowboys were there? I know we would to a degree, but when you just look at the product on the field, you wouldn't. I think you'd go, yeah, I get it. I get how this team could get on a hot run and beat the 49ers and the Saints and do things like that. So that's where it's a really interesting decision to me. And of course, tomorrow I'll be tuned in, and that'll be a fun game to watch.
Well, and I think the ultimate litmus test is, can they hold serve at home on Thanksgiving against the Bills? And, I was talking earlier on the radio side about the nostalgia of Thanksgiving and how the day before Thanksgiving is always kind of a special day, the night before, all the smells in the house, and it brings back memories of growing up. And for the Cowboys, the opponent that's rolling into town on Thursday is going to spark some nostalgia because they beat them in back-to-back years for Super Bowl championships.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you think about everything they've invested in Jason Garrett, and I think back to Jerry Jones defending Garrett early in his time as a coach, and he was kind of learning on the fly. It was kind of like Freddie Kitchens over a multi-year period, and then they decided after they put in the time and the effort to let Jason Garrett grow on the job, they were going to keep him around. The question is, where's his ceiling? Has he hit it?
Yeah, right.
And can he bust through it?
Fair question.
And I think this, at some level, this is the genius of Jerry Jones, because it doesn't always sound all that eloquent, but he is consciously, deliberately, and strategically throwing down the gauntlet for Jason Garrett. This is his test. Can you perform under this kind of pressure? If you can, great. If you can't, see you later. And look, this is the strongest language we've heard from Jerry Jones about a coach.
Yep.
We didn't even hear it about Wade Phillips. They just fired Wade Phillips.
Right.
They didn't give him the last clear chance warning. He was just gone after they said, oh, we're not going to fire Wade Phillips during the season, and then they did. So with Jerry Jones, all bets are always off. But now that he has said what he said, and he repeated a lot of those same thoughts on Tuesday, I think this is ultimate application of pressure to Jason Garrett to see how he responds. And this is his test. And if he fails, they get a new coach. And if he passes, they keep going.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do. I just don't know if fail happens this weekend. You know, again, they know they got some tougher games on their schedule coming up where I just want to go, okay, when does fail exactly hit home with the Jones family? And, you know, hey, working for the Jones family is not exactly the easiest thing in the world either. I do think we need to take that into account. But with this particular scenario, the Jones family's done a great job of scouting, signing free agents, spending money, drafting big, bad mofos on each side of the ball, okay? They got it all. And I just don't know when that line is. I mean, is it if they lost tomorrow and then lose to the Bears, then maybe it gets to that point. I just don't know if I would do it just with a loss tomorrow on Thanksgiving because there's still a very good chance you could get out of this weekend still leading the NFC East.
But that's the thing. You don't want to wait too long. You don't want to make the change at a time when you've lost your opportunity to take control of the division.
Right. And that to me is why Jerry Jones is the billionaire and the owner of the team, and he'll have to figure out the balance and make that decision ultimately.
I got 2 quick points I want to make before we take our first break.
Yeah.
First, I think that at some level Jerry Jones is upset by the Sunday Splash report that Jason Garrett's first choice would be the Giants if he's not retained by the Cowboys.
Sure.
Because I think Jerry Jones saw through that the same way the rest of us did. This was a warning shot at the Cowboys. If you get rid of Jason Garrett, you may have to deal with him twice per year. And I don't think Jerry Jones appreciates that because he has taken the high road throughout these efforts with Jason Garrett. And if they're going to start having pressure applied to them like that, he's going to get pissed. Secondly, Chris, I was talking about this yesterday with MDS on the PFTPM podcast. We were talking about what the Ravens did. If I'm Jerry Jones and I'm making a coaching change, boy, I'm thinking about Greg Roman because I'd like to see Greg Roman do with Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott what he's done with Mark Ingram and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And that offensive line. You talked yesterday about how that Baltimore offensive line just mauls everyone.
Right.
Cowboys have the tools to do it. And I think that that's a fascinating name to throw into the conversation for 2020 if that's the way that the Cowboys go.
It definitely is. I just don't know. You know, Dak Prescott, we know he's athletic and big. Is he that kind of player to where you want to run that offense around him? You know, yeah, it'd have to be in a more limited fashion. You're not going to be able to run Lamar Jackson the way you run Dak Prescott. He's just not as quick, not as fast, not going to be able to avoid some of those hits. That's the greatness of Lamar Jackson because he is so quick. Nobody really ever squares him up. So, but I'm with you. Greg Roman deserves the respect at least to be in that conversation.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.